That was nice. Who did this? That's nice of you. Since we're laboring on Labor Day. All righty. Week 2. I was pretty accurate in most of my comments after the first game with the way we played. So did a good job of watching from the sideline. But as we move forward, obviously moving into a different type of athlete. Obviously playing another Power 5 school, Arizona State, manhandled Northern Arizona last week. So we'll have to really practice well and have good plans and try to improve in all areas, clean up some things that we had issues with, stay focused, and we need a good crowd. I watched a few games. Well, I shouldn't even say a few games. I watched a few quarters. I didn't get to watch very much football, but it was recognizable that the safety we got, I think, was credited to the students and the paddle people in that side of the stadium where it was really loud and disruptive, and helped us. And so we really need a good home field advantage. I'm excited about the weather. Looks good for the crowd. Not so concerned about it for football, but it'll be good for the fans, and give everybody a chance to fill this place up and be really loud Saturday night. So I'm excited about that, being a part of it, sharing it with the fans, and watching our guys continue to grow and improve, and see if we can correct and come up with a good plan for some of the issues we had Thursday night, and move forward.
I get the negatives of kind of being surprised a little bit by their offensive scheme with a bunch of younger guys in the back end. But what are the positives? I mean, because those guys, that's as big a adjustment on the fly in the middle of a game. And I understand the results, but once you learn, sometimes that's what you have to do. That can sometimes help you later on in the year.
Well, the first thing is there is no substitute for experience and reps. And so on Friday, obviously I go and look at the tape, and then I have to sit down and give my opinion on what I think we did that was good, average, or not so good as coaches first, then tie that into what we feel like we got from the players and what we had actually prepared them for thoroughly, or what we didn't. And so some of the mistakes that we made, well, I'm going to say that the ones that the general fan would see from the watching it on TV or from the game were made with youth. It's the first time it's ever happened to them. So, they have to see it, we have to coach it, we have to correct it, and then try to make it better. It will not be the last time some of that happens with young players, period. That's just a fact. We were very, very mature a year ago at the 2 linebacker spots and the 5 safety spots, corner safeties, whatever you want to call them. Very mature. I mean, we all know that. So 2 of those guys are playing in the pros. One's playing for Ohio State, one's playing for LSU, one's playing for the Washington Redskins, and the other one's playing for us. The other one's not here, was an All-American. So we're replacing those guys with some guys that don't have as much experience, and that's really what you run into. So it's a simple solution that takes a little bit of time to evolve to it. As coaches, what we need to do is try to find how much that we can correct in 1 week to get ready for the next game on Saturday.
Mike, you said you were pretty accurate. Anything you weren't accurate about? Anything you saw in film that you didn't mention to us?
No, I thought I had a pretty good idea. Was most of what offensively we were pretty good. We didn't run block as well as we needed to, so I was pretty accurate with all that. We were not as good in special teams as I wanted to be. We were in the return game, we were fine. And then obviously in target punting, we were fine. But protection-wise and a couple other things, I didn't think we were very good, and I was correct. Those are things that we need to get cleaned up. We should be able to correct those a little quicker than some of the schemes on offense and defense. And then defensively, some guys that were out there for the first time in their life saw some things that they had never seen. And so it was new to them, and unfortunately, most of the time, that's what you get.
Mike, were those guys on defense in the right place, just didn't make a play because of inexperience, or was it also a matter of getting in the right place?
Both. You have communication that takes place from corners to safeties, safeties to linebackers, goes on throughout the game. And so veteran players can keep their eyes on something and move around and see something and relocate and still hear and get communicated, then pass communication on. Young players see things happen. They're trying to figure out what to do and where to go. They don't even hear anything. So the communication needs to improve, and both things you mentioned took place in that game.
Coach, after Thursday, you were talking about how you couldn't really talk about Mason's performance because you had to go back and watch the film. Have you been able to watch the film, and what were your thoughts on Derek Mason's first performance as a defensive coordinator for you?
Well, as a group, we weren't as clear on the headsets as we were last year because they're all new. And there's a lot that goes on game day. So there's communication with the defensive coaches in different areas, communication on blocking schemes, route concepts. They take it all in, then they've got to get it communicated, then get it to the players, get him back on the field. There's a lot that goes on, and I don't have any way to make it happen smooth without experience. They need experience working together just like the players do. So the good news is 90-something% of it is correctable. And it's just based on communication and experience and everybody learning to work together.
Deandre Jackson mentioned last week that he's having transcript issues. Do you expect those to get taken care of somewhat quickly?
That is a day-to-day gig. I mean, I can't answer that. That's out of my hands. They could call us up and say he's good, and they might not call us for a week. I'm not sure.
Did you know about that before last week? It seemed like a quick thing to happen all of a sudden.
Well, it's difficult to communicate when you're working with the NCAA. You might get some information from them, then you might not hear from them for 2 weeks. So we knew that he had some things to get taken care of, but we didn't really know for sure nor how long it would take. He's done all of his part, let's put it that way. Now we're just waiting on the clarification. It shouldn't be much further away, I wouldn't think.
You mentioned you weren't necessarily thrilled with the run blocking, but did you learn much about your running backs? Did you learn as much as you had hoped in the first game?
I mean, I was pretty close. I mean, they gave me about what I thought they were going to give me. You're talking about the backs?
Yeah, the backs.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
I know Jaden Nixon and Ollie Gordon got some extra time. What did you think of those two guys?
I mean, Ollie didn't get a lot of time. Made a play, now and then, and I thought Jaden gave us about what we thought he would give us in his career. And then, Dom runs hard. We didn't run block very well.
Does Jaden have a chance to be kind of an ideal complement for Dominic because their styles are quite a bit different?
He's more shifty and explosive and gets in the open field, can run away from you. So they're two different kind of backs. And Dom at some point in his career should become more elusive. We're having, we talked to him about trying to run, make a guy miss more so than just running through him. And I think he understands that, and he's trying to do some of that. But before it's all said and done, we'll end up needing 3 or 4 backs just from the beatings those guys take during the season.
I know he's got a lot of ability, but it was strange to see Langston Anderson, and he kind of looked like a receiver in his first playing experience at this level. Because even though he's been around, he hadn't played in games much. Would you assess him kind of that way?
Yeah, I mean, he played and did some things, did a few things good, and then played like he hasn't played in 3 years, which he hasn't played in 3 years. Quite honestly, I was just excited that he made it to the game. Truthfully, he's been very unfortunate with things that have happened to him. That if it wasn't one thing, it was another. And to just get him to the kickoff and get him out there and let him make some mistakes and get a feel for it, and he's no more than a true freshman if you look at him for the most part. Now his body's different because he's been working out with us for years, but his knowledge and game day experience and comfort zone is like a freshman.
Going back to the running backs, I know Ali caught a lot of eyes with that spin move. What did you see on that play and from Ali all game?
Well, he didn't play enough to really evaluate. He made a nice play on that. We've seen him make some plays in practice, and he'll learn and gather more information and concepts and schemes. So far, I feel good about their ability to protect, which is important for that position. It gives me a little more comfort. The running side of it, just based on how many carries they get, they'll just learn on the run.
You went with a lot of four wide on Thursday. How much of that is a product of personnel, and how much of it is a product of kind of fitting in what you're able to do with Spencer and kind of up-tempo offense? And
Both. When we're in those sets, it allows Spencer to freelance a lot and make decisions on his own, do what he wants to do in our style of offense. And he has a really good feel for our offense, and he has a pretty good idea of what we're trying to get accomplished. And so that allows him to make plays and use his ability, would be the main reason that we're in those type of sets. And then some of that's dictated on personnel, and then the teams we're playing. What we think gives us the best chance based on the style of defenses we see, if they base it on our personnel.
the fact that you're so deep at receiver make it easy?
Yeah, it helps, yeah. I mean, we didn't have that luxury last year. We were just trying to get 2 guys on the field last year. We're pretty comfortable with 5, 6, 7 guys now. At some point we'll get Bray back. I'm not sure when that'll be. But we've got some depth this year compared to what we've had.
What do you see out of Arizona State?
Well, they played good the other night. Their defense, I think they were number 1 in the Pac-12 last year defensively. I mean, I'm not sure, but I know they were ranked up there pretty high. They only gave up about 380 yards a game. Didn't give up many points. And I think they only gave up 3 the other night, 6 or 3, something like that. So they were pretty good on defense. And then they really helped themselves with the quarterback they brought in from, I think he's from Florida. He's athletic, he can run, makes plays with his legs, throws a deep ball well. So it'll be a good challenge for us. We'll get a really good feel for where we're at as a football team after this game, because we're going to play athletic guys that are big and physical. They've got big physical linemen. Their offensive line's good. We'll be challenged in those areas, so we'll get a good feel for where we're at.
2 things. I compared their numbers in the opener to what they did last season, and the run-pass percentages and all of that was almost identical. The other interesting thing about them is they have 2 new coordinators, but Brian Billick is their chief offensive analyst, and Marvin Lewis is their chief defensive analyst, and obviously Herm Edwards is an NFL guy. So arguably the 3 guys with the most say, or at least a big say, are all NFL guys.
Yeah, they've got quite a few NFL guys on that staff that are in different roles that you can see some NFL stuff in what their schemes are on offense and defense. And obviously he's got a long history in the NFL, and certainly those other 2 guys have a lot of history in the NFL and made coordinator changes. There's some similarities at times in what they did offensively. Defensively, a little different. Last year, a lot of pressure, a lot of cover 1 and stuff, not so much the other night. I mean, maybe they just said we're playing Northern Arizona and we're going to play this and play the base the whole game and not show anything for the next game. They could that could be their thought process also. Special teams wise, completely different last year than they were Thursday night. So maybe real vanilla against Northern Arizona to not show anything, and then be considerably different, more similar to what they were last year against Oklahoma State, because they have the same guy doing it. Slocum's boys doing it, son, so he's running their special team. So they might have some changes based on what's happened, and then maybe they're not really. We won't know that, so we have to kind of prepare for both.
Is there a specific area that you're looking towards this week when you're looking at the roster, that from this week for Central Michigan moving on, is there a specific position or area that you want to hone in on more, especially with a new quarterback, new adjustments, new coordinators?
On their roster?
Yes, on their roster. Like if you're game planning out a specific area of your team that you want to be able to have it make proper adjustments going into this week.
Well, we have to control their quarterback first. He's a good player. He throws a deep ball really well and makes plays with his legs. If you don't contain him, he's going to take off and run. He can really hurt you. So, I mean, most of my meetings with the coordinators, getting into that type of information was tomorrow morning. But just from what I see, I'm gonna guess the first thing we need to do is control their quarterback.
What kind of NFL schemes do you see Billick, Edwards, and Lewis bringing to Arizona State?
Well, it's not necessarily schemes. Some of it is just alignment, and when you look at what they did defensively last year. The new thing in college football is mixing in 3 down. You see a lot of 3 down in certain situations. They didn't play 3 down. They just played 4 down, which is a traditional defensive front. Now you're seeing some of that in the NFL, but those guys they're from a little ways back, so you get a little bit of vision of more of that style of play, and then there's almost 30% the other night of under center play for Arizona State. You don't see that. When Billick coached, it was under center. And so that was more of what you would get from that generation of NFL coach.
You guys are honoring the 2002 team on Saturday. What do you remember most about that team?
Man, you're asking me to go 20 years back. When you get my age, you'll understand that that's difficult to do. Was that the Houston Bowl team? So that was our first bowl when Coach and I were here, Coach Miles and I were here. And I think we had to beat Baylor to become bowl eligible, and that was a big deal for us because they hadn't, prior to Les and I coming in, I don't think we'd been to a bowl in a while, and so that was a big deal for us. And once we were able to get that accomplished, we're going down and playing a bowl. We played Southern Miss, I believe. Coach Bauer was the coach, I think, and they were always well coached with him. He was a good football coach. And I remember winning the game. I think Tatum Bell broke a long run, but I can't remember for sure. That's all I got.
Do you remember anything about Fields and Woods, maybe off the field, their connection?
Off the field?
Yes.
Not that I can think of.
What about on the field?
Well, they were good. They matched up a lot. They were really good on the field. I don't know. It might have been the next year. I think they started really working good together. I don't know. Was it that year or the next year? I can't help you, man. Yeah. So
They were good in 02.
Yeah. I think they were too. That's way back for me. But
That's the game where you beat OU 38-28.
yeah. So they were already playing good together in 02. Yeah. They had played good.
Said something like, we had a bunch more in the pocket we could have unloaded.
Yeah, that's right. They were playing good that year. Those guys had a good feel, both highly intelligent. Both. Fields was good enough to play quarterback in the NFL. He just chose to play baseball. Both very savvy football players.
Jones, the running quarterback for Arizona State, obviously he's good, but I couldn't help but notice the play of their backs. They've got the transfer from Wyoming that went over 100, but they got a couple of other backs, including a freshman that got in that They were pretty impressive.
Yeah, they're
running
good skill players. I mean, you're talking about guys that, are Power 5 conference skill guys, and bringing the quarterback in gave him another running back there throwing the ball, and the other guys are skilled and can make plays. And, they've traditionally always had speed on the perimeter. So this will be a good game for us to kind of figure out where we are.
What did you see from Caleb Etienne in his first start?
He played pretty good. I was pleased with the way he played. I mean, his overall grade is a C, but for your first time to play at this level, and he hadn't really played in a couple, 3 years, was not bad. He should improve and grow and learn. Not much difference in what he's doing and what we're trying to get accomplished with the young defensive guys. I mean, basically, he's trying to learn on the run and gain some valuable experience.
I want to get your opinion on the, obviously 12-team playoff expansion. How could you see things shaking up in the future for not just the Big 12, but college football as a whole?
Well, the first thing, I don't know a lot about it. I think the first thing is money took over. I mean, this was something everybody said no, 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 and then somebody said you're missing out on $450 million, and then everybody said yes, yes, yes. That's what happened. It's real clear cut. Now, do I think it's best? I don't think college football is broke, so I'm not sure why we're trying to fix it. Now, I know why we're trying to fix it, because they're talking about $450 million divided by 65 schools, is what I was told. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But my point being is the reason college football is a hot commodity and it's a great stock right now is because every game matters in college football. That's why people watch it. And we revenue money by people watching television. We all know that. And so there's a risk reward in everything we do. I'm not going to be involved in any of this decision-making process, so it doesn't really matter to me. But the point being is that you have to be a little careful that you don't change it to where people aren't as interested in watching a game because they know, well, there's 12 teams that can get in, so if these two teams play and this team loses, they can still get in later on during the year. That's not the case right now, so that's why everybody watches every game. Same thing in basketball. Like you can have 8, 10, 12 losses in basketball and still be a national champion. So we don't have to watch during the season. It's not that big a deal. What happens during the season in basketball is not a factor. The only thing that matters is in the tournament. Same thing in baseball, right? And I love those sports. You can lose 15 games and still be a national champion in baseball. So I don't need to watch till they start the regionals. I have to be careful about that in football if it's my opinion. And is there really 12 teams that are capable of winning the national championship? I mean, you guys do this for a living. You can go back and look every year. Are there really 12 teams that deserve to be in a playoff for a national championship? That's the only thing. That's my opinion. But just remember, I have nothing to do with it. So.
But the argument is we've got a sort of a closed club in college football. Same programs year after year, win the title or make the playoff. You triple the size, and all of a sudden, all kinds of new blood gets in. And
I understand.
I mean, that seems like it'd be a good thing for the Big 12 and for Oklahoma State.
I know exactly what they're trying to get accomplished. The only thing I would say is, if you just went back and looked at the at the end of the season rankings prior to the bowl games over the last 10 years. How long we had this 14 playoff? How many years have it been? 8 years. There's really 12 teams that you say, hey, they can legitimately win national championship. If not, then we shouldn't really have them playing for it because I'm not saying they didn't have a great year, but why are they in that mix when we don't really know if that could happen? So that's all I'm saying. That's just my opinion based on where it's at.
Mike, the Big 12 and the Pac-12, you alluded to this last week in a way, facing interesting futures with regard to pursuit of money, right? Media contracts, negotiations are coming up for both leagues. Trying to adjust without some pretty important programs moving on, OU Texas here, USC, UCLA there. Is there a subplot to your game Saturday whereby you can help the Big 12's cause by doing well against the Pac-12 team?
Big 12 is already they're ahead. We're fine. Big 12 is already working on it. We're in good shape.
Where's that faith coming from?
I'm getting good information.
From?
I mean, I don't know, but I'm just saying the Big 12's in good shape.
So you could win or lose by 40 Saturday. It has no bearing at all.
Well, that would have more bearing on my locals. But this game's not going to factor in that at all. We're in really good shape with the direction we're going, and we're making good headway.
Let me ask you this. You said you referenced something about might head west, might look west if the Big 12 were to realign or expand. Would Arizona State make a good Big 12 conference member?
There's two things there. The first thing is that just like the comments that I have on the 12-team playoff, none of this factors with me. You know that, right? This is all athletic directors, presidents, and the Big 12 conference. They're going to make those decisions, not the coaches. They don't call us. Well, I shouldn't say that. The president of Oklahoma State University calls me all the time about things like this, and so does the conference commissioner. But I'm not going to be able to say, hey, I want this school, you go get them. They're going to do what they want to do. And that's based on the negotiations at the media table with those teams. But I just think that we all realize that at some point this league is going to grow and the Big Ten is going to grow. That's what's going to happen.
From a football perspective, though, Arizona State might not make sense. You said you hit a home run, was how you put it last year, with the teams
That we had available.
Bowlesby at. Yes.
Yes.
It's no secret, the four corner schools in the Pac-12, the two Arizonas, Utah, Colorado, if that was the next foursome to join the Big 12, would you consider that a home run?
If they pay us good media money and budget-wise in the conference, we don't take cuts, and athletic directors can divvy up the money amongst the athletic department, and we can stay on the same curve, it was a good move. That's all it comes down to. I mean, you know this, you're writing about it all the time. It's all turned into money. So I'm guessing at some point when our commissioner goes to the table and says, whatever schools, how do you feel about these schools? And they say we're interested, then okay, let's play that game. They say we're not interested, they're not going to play that game. I mean, I think that's as simple as it gets. So I can't answer that question because I think there will be some teams that might not be or might not have as much notoriety from football that end up in a Power 5 league based on other reasons. That could happen. I just don't know that for sure, but that could happen.
So speaking of Arizona State, I know this Sunday is 9/11. It made me think of Pat Tillman from Arizona State. It made me think of Pat Tillman from Arizona State. What do you know about the impact he's made on just football in general and just as an American citizen as well?
Well, I'm a big military guy. I've always said this. First responders and military guys, when there's fires and buildings blowing up and people shooting guns, they run in and stop it. I run the other way. I don't want to run into something like that. I'm not tough enough to do that. Those guys do it. So he gives up an NFL career and says, I'm going to go fight for my country. And that's a big deal. I mean, so that's the ultimate sacrifice and should, in my opinion, be rewarded with the ultimate respect, is to go fight for our country. So we can all do what we're doing today.
I know, I think, what is it, after the third quarter, you always go shake hands with the people for Folds of Honor. You said you're a big military guy. Why?
That's the way I was raised. So my dad had some military experience, and I was raised from that tall of things that we respect. You respect authority, you respect teachers, you respect coaches, you respect grandparents, you respect other adults, you respect the flag, and you respect this country. And you respect the military, and that's the way I was raised.
You mentioned Etienne's grade. Was there anybody, when you look back at the tape, you just said, I didn't realize that guy played that well? Was there anybody that kind of popped off the screen and you said, you know what? Yeah, I know Kendall Daniels made plays. He told me in the locker room, he was honest. He said, I had as many bad plays as I had good.
He was right.
Schultz was playing his his first time at Cowboy back? I know he didn't get a lot of snaps in.
Yeah.
Not really.
You know, JP played pretty good. He had the catches, and then after that you didn't see much. But overall, he played really good. You know, he pass protected on a rush in on a 5 technique and stoned him and held him out and did a great job there. He would be a guy that played really good in my opinion.
Is he just good and we need to start figuring that out?
What's that?
Is John Paul Richardson just really good and we need to start realizing it?
Well, I mean, he's got to make plays, but he's fast, he's shifty, he's tough, he's intelligent, and he's learning to be a good route runner, and he likes to play football. And, you know, you've been around a lot of guys like that. And so that's really who he is right now. Is he arrived yet? No, he hadn't arrived yet, but he's moving towards that. And now he's just lacking live reps, experience. You know, he needs 150 plays in live games and to kind of get over that hump, but he's heading that direction.
How did your tight ends play?
They played pretty good. We had a couple. We had an A-, we had a B, and we had a B-. So those are pretty good grades. It's hard to grade well for us. Like ETN got a C. Very few linemen ever get more than a B here, and most of them get B- and Cs. So he played pretty well in his first game. But those guys were all kind of A-, B-ish, so they played pretty good.
This is a guy that obviously you're grading on those tight ends. We've talked about how far he's come, but is it really impressive when you look at it to see that he's catching a pass when he just converted to that position? I mean, he looked somewhat smooth catching it.
He did. He likes to play football. You know, he was willing to make the move. He could have eventually helped us a little bit as a rush in, but I mean, there's a long line of rush ins here, and they're young, so he made a good move sliding over, and as a tough guy that likes to play, intelligent. We can play with him. He can make some plays.
The defensive line was kind of talked about all summer long. How do you feel you guys did in managing that personnel in that first game?
When you go back and look at the game, if you look at the scoreboard and then you look at the where we were at personnel-wise on defense, we played a lot of different people early, and because when you looked at the scoreboard at one time, it was like, I don't know, 51 to 17 or something, and so we had mainly all young guys in, and then they would score a couple times, and so we had a few other guys with some young guys, and then we'd score, and then we put the other guys back in. So the good news is a lot of young players got to play based on scoring quite a few points in the first half, and gave them a chance to make a few plays or make some mistakes and hopefully allow us to correct it. But we're fortunate that we do have some depth there. We have the ability to play multiple guys.
You talked about Caleb Etienne earlier and you gave him a C, but what do you think about Taylor Maturko right next to him?
Caleb what?
You talked about Caleb Etienne and how you gave him a C grade, but what did you think about Taylor Maturko right next to him?
He was, I think he was a B- guy. I thought he played pretty good. I know one time he threw a no-hitter and got back to the quarterback. But other than that, he was on the right guy most of the time. He actually run blocked pretty good. He's more physical, but he's got a little more experience there. So he'll be fine. He just needs some reps.
Did you catch the end of Florida State LSU last night?
You know, I did. I watched the 10 minutes to go in the game when I got home and was able to watch the end of the game.
Does what happened on the extra point, which everyone just takes for granted, 99% of the time, is that a coaching point for you this week?
Sure. Well, it is all the time for us. They had a field goal blocked in the left CD gap, and then they had a PAT blocked in the left CD gap. So it could have been one or could have been a couple things. So I don't know for sure what protection they were using, but I didn't get when I watched it last night, when they showed the replays at the end of the game, they didn't show a close-up. They showed it from the depth, so I couldn't really see what went on. Now, they got the other one was the tackle put two hands on the guy, and the tight end put two hands on the guy, and they let a guy crease. So, that's kind of something we don't – I'm guessing if that would have happened, that would have been where we said we were wrong. Now, I don't know what their protections are. And then I couldn't tell on the other one what happened because didn't stop it and let me look at it and see it. But you know, it was like I was not happy that we had a punt blocked. I mean, we can't do that. Special teams and penalties really wear you out and can cost you games in the first 2 or 3 games of the year. Special teams and penalties.
Your penalties were pretty good, I thought.
We were pretty good, yeah. Yeah, we had a young kid. We were 5 for 45, I think. And then we had one young kid that grabbed somebody and got a 15-yarder. But other than that, we were, with the main guys, Barry, we were 4-ish for 30-ish or something. We were pretty good, not bad.
What was this is just maybe a little random, but what was the review when on the interception that was overturned when there was offsides? What were they reviewing there?
They just wanted to try their stuff out.
Okay, I said, I don't know if you got an explanation.
There is no review. So I thought maybe you can review offsides, and I've never been told that because I've never asked it. And so I asked the guy on the side, I said, is this a reviewable play? And he said, absolutely not. And I said, well, then do you know what they're doing? And he said, no. And I said, well, you're wearing the earpiece. I'm not. And he said, I have no idea what they're doing. And so when it was over, he said that, I think he said that they intercepted and the catch was in bounds, which we all knew. And then they said, you know, it's our ball. So I don't have any idea what they were doing. I really don't.
It was the most random thing I've ever seen.
Yep.
We got Pac-12 refs coming in this week? Or is that
He hasn't assigned them yet.
Is it the road team bringing?
Well, not always, and I need to check with Greg. He was working yesterday, and then obviously working last night all the way until they decided what to do when that kid's knee didn't go out of bounds. When they were showing the 3 guys up there that had all the soft drinks and the hot dogs and stuff everywhere, and they were sweating there at the last second. You saw them all standing there like this. They're talking to Greg in Dallas, would be my guess, and Greg Burks. And so he earned his money yesterday all the way up until late last night. So I haven't had a chance to find out. Either it's signed in the contract or they will assign a team from a certain conference. I'm not sure what this game is.
With the growing number of NFL guys that you have, how do you keep in contact or keep up with once their season starts, of just to kind of keep tabs on them as your season's going on?
Chris Deal in media for me, he keeps me updated on all of them, and I was able to talk to those guys, all 5 of those guys that made a roster the other day, and then Jalen came back. I didn't know he was going to come back, and so he'll keep me updated on those guys, and then most of them on their open date, they'll come back, come down the sideline, things like that. So we had those 5, and then we had 4 guys make practice squad. I think Tay and Izzy and did Stoner make a practice squad? Stoner made it, and somebody else made it. One other one. Anyway, we had 9 total that made it this year, 5 live and 4 practice squads. I'll think of who the other one is.
Justin sends out those care boxes where they get OSU gear.
Yeah, they get all their stuff, yeah. Send them all their stuff, so.
Anything else for Coach?
What else? Anything else? All right, guys, thank y'all.